All right. Good morning, everyone. Hopefully, you're looking at my presentation screen here. My name is Vince Stavrowski. I'm a pre-sales engineer here at Linnworks. We'll be working on our listings management presentation today. Um, Although it is 9 a.m., I'm going to give our participants probably another 2 minutes before we get started here, just to make sure everybody has a chance to get logged in and comfortable and situated, and then we'll get kicked off here shortly. So if you would, give me just another 90 seconds or so, and we'll get started. All right, with that, let's go ahead and jump into it. It is now 9:02 by my clock. So welcome, everybody. My name is Vincent Stavrowski. I'm a sales engineer here at Linnworks. Today, you've joined us to check out listings management within Linnworks. So I'm going to take you through how that works in our platform. Stick around to answer any additional questions and give you guys kind of a general overview of the Linnworks platform as well. Um, the information on the screen there, I'm going to have a QR code for you to scan at the end. Um, and we'll also take some questions if there are any. Please feel free to put their questions in the chat. I've got team members behind the scenes who will feed me those questions as well. But let's go ahead and get started. Looks like I'm sharing my entire window here, so hopefully at this point you are able to see the Linnworks platform on your screen, if I've done everything right. Um, this is the primary inventory dashboard, but we're actually going to start under settings in channel integrations. Now, I pretty much do this really just to get you familiar with how Linnworks gets connected to different marketplaces and channels. And then from there, we'll jump into inventory listings. And I'll briefly cover order management here at the end as well. We're not going to spend a ton of time on that because we have dedicated webinars specifically to order management. But let's get started. So what you're looking at on the screen right now is where Linnworks gets connected to various channels and marketplaces. You'll see here in my demonstration environment, I've got a couple of Amazon regional accounts connected. I've got an eBay store connected here, and I've got two different Shopify accounts connected at the same time. You might think of that as store A and store B as wholesale environment versus a retail environment, or it could be, brand A has its own website and brand B has its own website, but they're on the same platform, and that's perfectly fine. Linnworks has the ability to connect to over 75 additional marketplaces and channels. Got a pretty significant list here. You find the channel that you like, look for that one particular marketplace that you're interested in, click that integrate button there. That would launch a marketplace specific connection wizard, and that's how you'll get connected to various marketplaces and channels. Now, it's important to note that not all channels support all the features that are available within Linnworks. So that means you're all here to learn about how to list using the Linnworks tool. Linnworks has the ability to list to a very wide range of different marketplaces, but not all marketplaces support listings through Linnworks. So it's important to know when you're coming to Linnworks to connect to various marketplaces, ask us. Ask us which ones support listings, which ones do not. That is, of course, in our documentation as well. But if you're curious, give us a shout, let us know. We'll walk you through which marketplaces listings is supported on and which ones are not. And we could certainly have an extended discussion about that. Happy to as well. With that out of the way, let's move on over to the inventory side of things. We're currently looking at our inventory dashboard that's under My Inventory. You'll see that our inventory component has various other functionalities available as well. Stuff that you would think of typically available in an inventory platform, like moving inventory from one warehouse to the next, ordering low stock from specific suppliers. We've got an FBA stock dashboard to give you an awareness of what the status of your inventory is at FBA. Vendor central dashboard as well. So there's some things that you, I think, would expect to see in an inventory system that connects to specific marketplaces. With that out of the way, here's our inventory dashboard. It is important to note that we manage your inventory by warehouse location. So in this drop down over here, you'll notice I have a default warehouse selected. I also have a warehouse in Texas with different inventory values. I've got another warehouse over in London with different inventory values. I can see my inventory at Amazon FBA. Mine shows all zeros right now because my demonstration site's not actually connected to FBA. That's true. I don't actually have an active connection to FBA right now, so I don't have anything coming in, but through our API in a live environment, you would actually see FBA inventory values coming in here. And then, of course, we give you a combined stock view as well. That's just going to show you your inventory totaled up across all the different warehouses that you control. Let's go back to our default warehouse. There we go. And I've got my SKU items over here. I've got my product availability being displayed here. This available column is derived from your physical stock level minus what you have in open orders right now. That is orders that have not been fulfilled yet, but they've been downloaded. And that leaves you with what you have available to sell over here. And this is what we transmit to those marketplaces to share our inventory with those marketplaces. So those marketplaces are able to communicate that to your customers. Now, if we want to list products from Linnworks to those various marketplaces, that's why we're all here today. One of the things that we need to have available in order to list products to those marketplaces is that product information. You might think of it as product details, catalog data, product information. It's called a lot of different things, but it is just all the various attributes, titles, images, descriptions, properties of a given SKU item that you would utilize in that listings process. And that's all held at the SKU level in Linnworks. So for an individual SKU item, I'll click into one here, and that brings up my product details page. We're currently looking at this Patagonia-Teal-Triple XL SKU. That's the SKU item that we're currently taking a peek at here. And I've got all of the various product details held among these different tabs that you see here. Now, not all of these tabs are relevant to listings, but many of them are, including this general tab. This general tab holds exactly what you would expect it to, generalized information about this particular SKU item, including the SKU number or the item number shown here, the item title, the barcode number, the purchase price. This is our default cost here. The retail price, this is what's going to show up when we post this item to a particular marketplace. If we don't specify a specific price for a specific marketplace, then the system knows just use this general retail price for that particular item. Now, we can designate specific prices for specific marketplaces. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that here in just a second. But if you don't do that, then you have a default kind of a retail price. That's what the system's going to push. We do have the ability to enforce scanning of serialized numbers for your products when you are dispatching. We won't hold that serial number in inventory, something we get asked about occasionally, but we do have the ability to scan serial numbers to specific order IDs when they're leaving your warehouse. So that's really good for warranty services or exchanges or any reason you might need to be able to identify a serial number to a given order ID. Beyond that, let's get into images. Our image gallery can support up to 12 different images for a single SKU item. You can either bring those images directly into the Linnworks system, and we'll actually host those images for you within our platform. Or alternatively, if you are storing your images on a cloud-based drive, Google Drive or Dropbox, or if you've got your images stored on a website already, we can bring those images into our system with a URL as well. So if you'd rather just use a URL to link your images to our system, that's perfectly fine. You can also drag them, drop them into the system. You can import them. But essentially, just be aware that we can hold up to 12 different images per SKU item, and you can decide which images should be used where in regards to the channels that you're listing on. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in the future. The postage definitions tab just holds the weights and dimensions of a given item. We also have a default postal service and packaging group already selected for that particular SKU item, just speeding up the process of fulfillment when we get a single line item order with this particular item on it. Let's talk now about listing descriptions tab. This is an important tab here because it allows you to establish individual pricing per channel, individual titles per channel, and individual descriptions per channel, all for a single SKU in one space in this table. These three different tables essentially are going to be able to indicate those attributes or those specific prices, titles, and descriptions per channel. And you can see how it's laid out here. So as I mentioned earlier, we had that default price, correct, sitting in our general tab over here, that retail $34.99. But in this case, you can see that that's only really valid for our store in the UK, that $34.99. Across different stores, I've got eBay Spain, eBay Germany, I've got eBay US, I've got Shopify Store A, Shopify Store B, and I'm sending different price data to all those different channels based on the markets or the demographics or the currency that I happen to be using in those particular marketplaces. We're just sending a raw number, so this number assumes that it's already in the currency that's going to be used across these different marketplaces. If you have any specific questions about that, I'm happy to dive into that a little bit deeper, but just know that our system is going to send whatever value is in this table, regardless of what the currency is. So make sure you have that currency understood and known on that particular site, and then we'll send the price value to that site for you automatically. The same is true going down for product titles. You'll notice I've got a product title in my eBay UK store and a product title in my eBay Spain store. And I am, yes, using a translation in that particular title field there. Now, Linnworks will not do that translation for you. You've got to do that translation in an external system. Maybe you've got somebody who speaks multiple languages. Maybe you're using a translation service like Google Translate, whatever the case may be. But whatever data you drop into this field here is what we're going to push to that particular marketplace. So do that translation before you drop that data here. That's also true for product descriptions. Again, I have an eBay store in multiple regions throughout Europe and the United States, so my descriptions are going to need to be uploaded in multiple languages, and our system can easily handle that for you. So that's an important set of tables to pay attention to when you're listing to multiple sites, even if it's not in multiple regions. Maybe they're being listed to multiple markets or demographics, and you want those descriptions or titles or prices to be different based on where you're listing those products. Linnworks can absolutely help you with that. I'm going to quickly cover the channel SKU tab as well. I'm going to show some additional columns, and I'm going to expand this out so we can see a little bit better. The channel SKU column allows you to associate other SKUs from outside sources that still relate to this SKU internally for you. That's a weird way to say it, but essentially, if you've got, say, Amazon, eBay, Shopify, or different marketplaces and channels that you're connected to, and this SKU, this Patagonia-Teal-XXL, is called something else on those channels. Maybe it's called Pat-Teal-3XL. Maybe it's called Pat-T- 3XL. Maybe it's called Patagonia-Green-3XL on different marketplaces and different websites. Well, that's irrelevant to you, but what you really care about is that all those SKUs come back and associate with this item internally to your system. And that's exactly what the channel SKU table can do for you. So you can associate many different external SKUs to this internal SKU based on the source that that's coming from. You can also tell the system to list a maximum amount per channel. So maybe you have a maximum listing for Shopify that's different than Amazon, that's different than Walmart. You can also end the listing when you get down to a specific level of inventory per channel. So say for Amazon, you want to end the listing when you get down to your last 5 units or your last 10 units. So you have that safety stock essentially to handle returns, exchanges, warranty services, any instance where you need to have specific stock available for those types of services, and you don't want to sell through that inventory, you want to have some in reserve, you can set that reserve per channel here in this column as well. So that's really going to be important when you're listing your products to various marketplaces and channels as well. I'm going to skip over suppliers. We'll cover that on another webinar. Today, we're going to jump into extended properties. This extended properties table is actually quite powerful in Linnworks. And I want to spend just a minute talking about this table here and describing how you'll utilize this. The extended properties table is essentially an open table that allows you to create whatever attribute might be necessary to list your products to specific marketplaces, and then give that attribute a specific value that's required for that specific product. For this example, we'll talk about bullet points. You know that Amazon loves to ask you for bullet points. Those bullet points are going to contain specific information about that particular product. And in this example, we've got bullet point 1, and then this is the value that goes in that for this particular SKU. But we also have bullet point 1 in German and bullet point 1 in Spanish, because I do serve those marketplaces and I do need to push data to those marketplaces. So I am storing for this SKU bullet point 1 in English and German and Spanish, all in one table here. Now, what's cool about this is I'm going to talk about configurators and templates here in a minute, and those Linnworks configurators know that when they are pushing information to Amazon US, or in the English-speaking region, we're going to use bullet point 1. When we're pushing data to Amazon Germany or Amazon Spain, we're actually going to use bullet point 1-DE or bullet point 1-ES for the Spanish version there as well. Our system can be programmed to interpret that. So that's something important to understand about how these values are or the attributes are created, and then values are assigned to those attributes, and then Linnworks utilizes those in that listings process. Now, this is wide open. So you can really create any attribute that you want and give it any value that you want or that's needed or required by your listing supported marketplaces, and it all lives here. Now, the cool thing about this table, if it wasn't cool enough already, is that you have the ability to utilize this table for order management as well. Now, again, I'm not going to go too deep into this today because we're talking about listings, not order management. But it is important to know that the order management system within Linnworks that helps you process orders in Linnworks can also read this table. So if you had a attribute that was, let's say, fragile, and the value was true, so it is an item that is fragile, that could influence the type of carrier service that you assign this particular package to. Maybe you don't want to use the cheapest service available. You want to use a more white glove service for your fragile items, and that's perfectly fine. You put in here that the item is, or the value, or I'm sorry, the attribute is fragile, the value is true, and that would inform our OMS based on rules that you've written to that system. Hey, that this item should be handled with more care. We should use specific carrier services or specific processes when we're shipping an order that contains this item because it is in fact a fragile item. Same could be said for items that contain a lithium-ion battery, or items that are hazardous materials, or that require specific shipping documentation to be able to be sent. The system can be programmed to for those particular SKUs to contain those attributes and values. And then again, our OMS can read that and make decisions based on that, based on the rules that you write in those systems. So that's a lot of words, that's a lot of complexity, but essentially just realize that, hey, our OMS can read this table as well and can make automated decisions based on values contained in this table. Simple way to look at that. All right. Let's scoot ahead on into listings capability. I want to make sure we stay on track here. So one of the things that I can do in Linnworks is this view of my inventory. I can actually create a custom view. I can apply specific filters. I can add, remove, or reorganize specific columns. And most importantly, in this case, I can add channels as columns to this view to get something that might look like this. This is my listings view in Linnworks of my inventory. Now, the important thing to notice here is I've got my inventory items over here, And on this side over here, I've got my channels and marketplaces displaying as columns. Within those columns, I could see the listing status for each of my individual SKU items under each marketplace column. Right now, they're all showing little dashes because I don't have anything currently listed to any of these marketplaces and channels. If I want to, say, select a handful of products over here, and I want to get these products listed to these marketplaces and channels, I can do that through Linnworks. So I've got, probably 15 to 20 items selected here. I'm going to come into my Amazon column here where I showed nothing is currently listed. I'm going to right click in that column and you'll see I have an option here to create a listing on Amazon. Now, in order to create a listing on Amazon, I have to use a configurator, or you might think of it as a template, to be able to push these products to this particular category on Amazon. In this case, I am pushing to the clothing, t-shirts category on Amazon, and I've built a very specific template for that category on that particular marketplace. We call it a configurator. That lives under settings, under configurators. Here's my Amazon configurator for that specific category on that particular marketplace. And I can see under attributes, the system is aware these are the attributes that that particular marketplace requires in order to list SKUs to that particular category. I've then gone through my extended properties list that I have from the available attributes down below, and I've matched my extended properties, remember that table that we talked about earlier, to the specific required attributes from that particular marketplace. So once I've done this mapping exercise, that covers that category for me. I'm done. I don't have to do that for each individual product. I've done that in my template here, and I've told Linnworks that's the template that I'm going to use in this case to list those products. So let's go ahead and do it. Let's select that template to list the products that I have selected on the screen right now. That brings up the template. You can see the column headers at the top represent all of the individual data points that we need to set to send to Amazon in order to list these products correctly. You'll notice that Linnworks is actually already telling me, hey, here's a cell that you've actually not set up correctly yet. So for this one, that's browse node selection. I've actually not selected any browse nodes in this case. Linnworks is telling me, hey, here's all the browse nodes that are available for this particular category. Select the ones you want and we'll input that in for you. You can tell because I've not done that yet, the system has highlighted that for me for that particular SKU item. I can also take a look quickly at the description that Linnworks pulled for this particular product. It should have, in this case, pulled the description that I targeted specifically for Amazon. In that case, it's done exactly that. You'll notice we do have rich text formatting capability here for the marketplaces and channels that will accept rich text formatting. You have the ability to enter that into the system here. Amazon does not, so we won't bother with that. But for eBay, as an example, can take HTML in the description field. So we can actually input HTML source code in the description here, and that will render correctly on eBay's marketplace. So you'll see that we have that capability built into the system for you there as well. All right, on to attributes. So remember when we said, okay, this marketplace has these specific attribute requirements. We're going to match those up to those extended properties from that giant table that I showed you in Linnworks. This is where it all lines up. So we've already done the mapping of those specific required attributes to those specific extended properties that we had for that template, specifically for Amazon. And this happens to be showing us the values for this particular product that are going to show up for those required attributes on Amazon. In this case, Amazon requires a department attribute, and I don't have data sitting in that one. So I need to go back and correct that before I can actually successfully list this product to that marketplace. So Linnworks does a really good job of showing you the data that you have, the data that you need, the discrepancies between those two, allowing you the opportunity to ensure that you have all of the required data that you need available to be able to push a listing to a given marketplace. Again, building that template at the front end, validating that you have the correct attributes in place here. In this example, the variations column is all red because this category on Amazon expects variations in products for sizes and colors. And in this example, I've actually not set my inventory up that way. So the system is able to tell me, hey, you're about to make a mistake. You're about to try to do something that's going to lead to trouble because you've not set up variations for each of your inventory items here. It's just something this category requires. So it does a good job of indicating bright red, hey, you've got a problem, fix this before you attempt to list. So we can certainly rely on Linnworks to help guide us through that individual process. The last column that you see here is the ability to click into those boxes and select the individual images from my 12 image gallery that I have for each individual SKU. I can select the specific images that I want to use for this particular listing. So we are aware that Amazon has certain standards or restrictions around images that you can and cannot use in their listings, where that might be very different from the product images that you want to use on your own Shopify site, as an example. So yeah, you can select the different images that you want to push to different marketplaces for different listings capabilities. Now, once I've got all of these errors corrected, I've got my variation set up correctly, I've picked my browse nodes, I know everything else looks good, I've got all of my attributes lined up, then I can come in and say, okay, let's select all those products and let's batch process these listings to that marketplace. So when I hit that button, Linnworks is going to begin pushing this information and creating those listings on various marketplaces automatically for us. We're going to see a couple things. In our sync status down here, we're going to see those listings being processed, right? If they're pending, if they error out, we're going to see specific information about those listings being pushed to that particular marketplace. Under status, we'll also see what the status of that listing creation process is currently as well. Back out to the My Inventory dashboard. Under this column, we will see the listing status of each individual item as those listings are created. Now, if you've got one that says, hey, it's got an error, there's something wrong, and I hover over that indicator that says you've got an error, it will show us the specific listing error that has occurred for that particular item. So if you do list a handful of products to a particular marketplace and one or two of those came back, hey, this had an error, something was wrong, you can hover over the status of that error for that particular SKU under that marketplace's particular column, and it's going to tell you, hey, this is the error that accounted. Gives you a really good idea of what you need to go correct for that inventory item in your system to make sure that that listing functions correctly. And it is the same process across eBay, across Shopify, any other channel that you have in Linnworks that you're using Linnworks to list to. The process is, again, I'll do that again just so you can see it. We're going to select those inventory items. I'll come under the column for that particular marketplace and I'll select create listing. That's the same for eBay, create listing, same for Shopify, create listing. So you can see that process is very similar for each of the individual marketplaces. Ultimately, what that solves for you is if you have a lot of SKUs that you are trying to list in rapid succession to many different marketplaces and channels, Linnworks can be a tool to really increase the speed at which you're going through that process. Many of our customers come to us and they are listing individual SKUs to individual marketplaces by hand each individual time. That is a way to do it. I think if you have a smaller number of SKUs and a smaller number of marketplaces, that is sustainable for a period of time. But once you get beyond a certain level of SKUs, and this will be different for every single one of our customers, once you get past a certain level of SKUs, or a certain number of SKUs and a certain number of marketplaces, it's no longer really sustainable to try to list individual SKUs to individual marketplaces one at a time. It just becomes a time sink. And it is almost 2025 here, so we have the technology. Let's utilize that. We have the ability to batch list our SKUs across multiple marketplaces at the same time. Let's utilize Linnworks' capability to do that, to give us a big jump forward in getting those products posted across different marketplaces and channels. Utilizing the templates that we want to use and pushing the data that we want to push to those marketplaces, in addition to understanding the requirements of each individual marketplace and what they insist that we provide them with regards to product information as well. So hopefully that gives you kind of a good broad understanding of how Linnworks organizes SKUs and inventory items within our system. We organize the data that those SKUs need in order to be listed through Linnworks to those different marketplaces. And Linnworks is a complete solution in that regard. We have the product information management built in, we have the inventory management, and we have the ability to list to those marketplaces through our various connections. So hopefully that gives you everything that you need to successfully and rapidly create those listings across those multiple marketplaces. All right. In the last bit that we have here, let me do this. Let me quickly check my screen for any questions that have come in. I don't see any questions, so we're looking pretty good there. Again, guys, if you have questions for me during the presentation, please feel free to shoot them over. Oh, I've got a number of questions on the webinar. Cool. So it looks like I've got some. I don't see them coming to me through chat. So Nick, I might need some help with that.
Yeah,
Oh,
no problem, Vince.
okay.
Apologies for that. I can
No
certainly run
worries.
through them for you if that's
I
okay.
just opened up the Q&A panel here, and it looks like we've got some questions here. I'm just going to go down these questions. If there's questions that might take too long for me to answer or stuff that I need to research, I will get back to you guys after the webinar for your specific questions. But the first one that I have here are product descriptions in HTML format. My apologies for tripping over my words there. And the answer is yes, we can. So under listing descriptions, we do have the ability to create those listing descriptions using HTML code if you've got it. Again, not all marketplaces support that. Primarily eBay is the number one marketplace supporting descriptions in HTML, but yes, you can push that through Linnworks. All right, there's a question here. Is there a tool which could adjust pricing based on currency fluctuations against a base price? Yeah, so being able to change prices on listed items in an automatic fashion. Yeah, good question. And there's some stuff to talk about there. So while we can push individual prices per SKU item to individual channels, Linnworks doesn't have any automation to update this table based on currency fluctuations or based on maybe a repricing tool. Linnworks natively doesn't do that. However, we do have the ability to connect to a repricer tool or connect to a currency fluctuations tool where as prices are changing or as the market conditions are changing and you need to update pricing, we have partnerships with repricing tools that will automatically update this table for us. And then Linnworks automatically updates the marketplaces based on the changes to this table. So we don't do it natively, but we do have the ability to partner up with a variety of different solutions that can push price information to this table. And then, yes, Linnworks will automatically update your marketplaces based on the pricing changes that occur in this table. So probably not a native solution, but we do have the capability to accomplish that pricing update in an automated fashion. Give us a shout. Let's talk more about that because we'd like to connect you to some various partners that we have that do that and see which of those might be best for you. So let's hear from you around that. Next question I have, do you have to have an existing ASIN in Amazon or will it create an ASIN if one does not exist? I believe we will generate one if one does not exist, but I'm not 1,000% certain on that. Let me quickly update myself on exactly what that process looks like, and we'll get back to you on that particular question because that's important. One thing I want to cover that I haven't talked about yet is adding your item to an existing catalog item on Amazon, for example. If there is a listing on Amazon that you want to just attach yourself to as a seller, we have that option as well. So again, for this single item, this Patagonia teal item, I'll come into the Amazon column here, and rather than creating a listing, I'm going to add myself to a catalog item. So again, we're going to use that same category. And now I'm going to search by a particular identifier, either UPC, I could search by ASIN, I could search by EAN, I could search by ISBN, I could search by GCID. Now, what I can do is search by a specific ASIN number through Linnworks connection to Amazon. that will display all of the listings that contain that ASIN. Then we can sort by sales rank or lowest price, select the specific listing that we want to attach ourselves to as a seller, and we can hit that list button there. And now we become a seller to that particular listing that already exists on Amazon. That's an important factor that I didn't cover earlier. I want to make sure you all were aware of. Let's get back to the questions. If a marketplace overwrites something you enter, such as Amazon with a browse node, does Linnworks flag this for you to check or just update it automatically? So if a marketplace overwrites something, will it update in? You know what? I think that's going to be very marketplace and attribute specific. So again, let me take that one back. Let me get some specifics to answer that question. And I'll get back to you on that one because that's a good question. And I don't know the specific answer on that, but I will return. Next question. One of the limitations of a service such as Listing Mirror is that changed will not post to the marketplace unless inventory is 1+. Oh, so you have to have inventory in place for it to update the listing. I don't think that's necessarily true in Linnworks. We have the ability to revise a listing. I think that's regardless of the product availability. You do have the ability to, if you change something in Linnworks, you want to update, you can push that update. And I don't think that's dependent on having inventory in place. Specifically for eBay. I don't think that's a limitation we have. Let's get together. Give me a shout. Let's talk through that because I want to learn more about specifically what you're doing there. And we can test that and make sure that that's specifically accurate. But I don't think there is an inventory +1 requirement for us to refresh data for an individual SKU item. All right. Let's move on down. Can Shopify tags be applied to products before they are listed? Yes, we can. So we can Shopify tags specifically. We do have the ability to push data to those fields. We can certainly do that for you. That's part of the Shopify specific template as well. Let's scroll on down. Is there a way we can upload list price with tax attribute of Amazon via Linnworks? List price with tax. Currently missing an attribute on a whole inventory. We want to be able to update the attribute at the same time when we update whole inventory prices. So list price with tax. Because of our ability to push variance in pricing to Amazon, I would expect we could do that. I've never tried that specifically myself, so I don't know 100%. So again, that's probably one I want to test. And then I actually probably want to get with you individually and talk about your specific use case just to make sure there's nothing hiding in there. But yeah, I think we could likely get that covered for you. So give us a shout. Let's have a conversation about that. Let's dive into that a little bit deeper for more specifics. And we can certainly see if we can push that list price with tax attribute via Linnworks. I would assume that we could. Moving on down. Is there a default description and bullet points that can be applied to all marketplaces, or do you have to define each marketplace individually? No, you can use the same description across all different marketplaces if you like. There's no requirement that you have a different one for each individual marketplace. So yeah, no restrictions around that. How does Linnworks deal with VAT? All right, VAT is something that I'm not as familiar with that as I should be. I'm primarily the North American sales engineer for Linnworks, and we don't talk about VAT in North America nearly as much as you do in Europe. Yes, we do handle it. I'm not sure exactly how we handle it. So that's one that I would probably like to get connected with you along with one of my European colleagues. And we can dive into how Linnworks deals with VAT. Yes, we do deal with it. We are successful with it. I just don't know exactly how we do it. And that's primarily my ignorance as a North American sales engineer. It's just not something I talk about quite often. So let's get together and we'll dive into that one for you as well. Next question. What is the name of the repricers you use? It is one that has a couple different names. Excelco and repricer.com, I believe, are the same company that we're currently using as a repricer. That's the primary one that we use. But we have an extensive partnership platform. So there may be others that you might be interested in using as well. Let's have a conversation about that. We'd love to refer you to specific partners based on your specific needs. So give us a shout. Let's dive into that, and we will get you connected. All right, next question coming down. There's a lot of questions on this webinar, and that's great because usually there aren't very many at all. So I'm just going to keep rolling through these. Next question. For eBay, can you have multiple templates that you can choose between for products? One for collection only products, one for free shipping, each with their own HTML templates and eBay postage policies. Generally, yeah. Generally, you can hold different templates, even for the same marketplace, for different use cases in Linnworks. So I don't see any red flags around that use case scenario where you have different templates for different use cases, even for the same marketplace. Yeah, not a problem. We can help you with that as well. Let's go down. What is business price attribute in Linnworks? I think that is the same as list price with tax. Potentially. Again, I'd want to research that a little bit before I spoke out of turn on a webinar about that specifically. But that sounds reasonable. And then the last question I have in my list here, is there any way we can update a single attribute on all listings on Amazon at once, like adding manufacturer or country of origin attribute in all listings? Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to update listings, let's say you've got products already listed on Amazon and you want to revise them or update them again, you have that revise selected capability here. We could revise specific attributes, add new attributes to existing listings. So yes, we do have that capability as well. That looks like all the questions in the Q&A bar that I've got here. If I missed any, my team and I will go back through these questions afterwards and we'll get with you individually for sure on those. So really appreciate the attentiveness and you all pushing questions into the Q&A. That certainly makes my job a lot more interesting. And hopefully I've given you some valuable answers. Hopefully I haven't deferred too many of those questions. I really hate to give bad info on a webinar. So I want to make sure that I answer those questions very specifically. So please do reach out. And if you don't, hang tight. We're going to reach back out to you to get those specific answers. Cool. So with that, we've done a really good job, I think, of covering comprehensively the listing process within Linnworks. I'm sure there's tons more questions out there. Listings is complicated. I think as e-commerce operators, you are all pretty aware that listings can be a painful exercise. It can be a challenge depending on the marketplaces that you're listing to, depending on the platforms that you're using, depending on where your data is held and organized. It can be a significant challenge. And you end up spending a lot of money either hiring someone to do it manually for you one by one. You spend a lot of money on software that does it for you, or you're spending a lot of money on some other solution trying to get those products listed. And it's a challenge. And so Linnworks is really here to help smooth that process as much as possible. Even if we're not automating things 100%, then hopefully we are organizing your data in a workflow that makes that listing process more efficient at the minimum, makes it an easier goal to accomplish or process to get through. With that, y'all, I just want to quickly point out that with our OMS, order management system, I like to just touch on this with regards to each different webinar. This is our order management dashboard. These are our open orders. We have an extensive set of automated tools within order management that will help you determine the attributes and properties of a given order and take actions on those orders based on those properties to automate your fulfillment processes. That is downloading orders, sorting those orders to the correct fulfillment centers for distribution, assigning those orders to the correct carrier services, based on where they're going or how expensive that service is or what the restrictions are for those particular products. Getting those labels printed and getting those boxes staged. We have the pick, pack, and ship functionality within our system as well. We can generate pick lists, both paper copies and digital pick lists. We can implement scanning checkpoints or scanning services throughout the different processes you have for fulfillment as well. I would cover that all on a different webinar. I believe that's one that we've already shared. Again, we could probably do that in the future, covering order management as well. But that information is out there and available to you as well. So with that, I think we're going to wrap it up here, give you guys some time back. I hope I gave you a good explanation of how listings works in Linnworks. Any additional questions, we'd love to hear them. For those of you that I read your question online and I didn't have a solid answer for you, give me just a few minutes to get some research done on my end so I can give you a valid answer, and we will reach back out to you with that. If that's not good enough, give us a call. I'd love to have a discussion with you, take you on a private tour through the platform, get you on live and answer some specific questions. But with that, y'all, let's get back out to the presentation here. There's a little QR code for you. If you want to reach out to us, you can certainly do that via that QR code. Many other ways to reach out to us. You can always go to linnworks.com and visit our website there and submit questions to us there as well. Schedule a demonstration. I'm happy to do private demos for specific use cases out there. That's usually the most valuable way to see our platform. But thank you all so much for joining. It's been really a pleasure of mine to present to you today. And you're having about 15 minutes back at the end of the hour here. So thanks, everyone. Have a great day, and I hope to talk to you soon.